Dungeon Master Hotline.
Um, in a few sessions I was doing, I had players trying to run the campaign, and I was just trying a lot to force them to stop doing that, and they just didn't do that. They didn't stop. How do I fix that?
How do you prevent players from taking over the campaign? Huh. Elaborate. Tell me how they're taking over the campaign.
Because they kept trying to, like in my second sentence, they kept trying to direct the story, and I'm like, you no, you're not doing that. And they tried to go places. I'm like, no, you're not going here. If you wanted to go here, that's fine, but that's not of the current story. So no, we're not doing that. And they're like, but we want. I'm like, no.
Okay.
And it just started getting rather complicated because I kept trying, because I kept, all right, your characters go here because we're not, you know, and their main story was not their main story of was their goal, and I let that stay that, and it was for them to go back and blow up the castle, but they
Okay.
didn't ended up trying to do that.
Okay. What did they end up doing instead?
They went to a major city. That's really much where it ended because they went to the major city and they ended up leaving, and I had them getting kidnapped, and before I could even get to start the last session, they kept trying to direct how they got out and when, and I'm like, no, 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 and they're just kept on and on and on, and I'm like, just we're I didn't get mad at him, I didn't yell at anybody, but it just became rather frustrating to get them to go on to the story and stay with it.
Okay. Let me ask you a question. When the how would you rate your own improv skills as a dungeon master? How do you feel about your own ability to improv and to think on your feet?
The entire homebrew was completely on the spot, and I kept getting called an incredible DM for it being improvised and on the spot, and I'm like, yeah, it was kind of I didn't have to backtrack the story or anything like that.
Okay.
I'd say at least 9 out of 10.
Okay. 9 out of 10. Okay, so when you have something in mind, you mentioned a castle. I didn't catch that. You said they were going to storm a castle and then
Oh, they were
pivoted,
gonna blow it up.
blow up a castle, and then they pivoted. You wanted them to blow up a castle, and then they pivoted. That's what was that? Am I
Pretty much.
understanding that right?
Yeah, I was waiting for them to go back, and they just didn't.
Okay. Uh, so that's a tough one. The players are the. I mean, if all of the players are in agreement about going in a specific direction, the reason that I asked about your improv is because it sounds like you have an idea in your head, blow up a castle, escape imprisonment. And if they don't follow the path that you have in your head, you kind of don't know what to do. So what I would so the best way to deal with that as a dungeon master, if you feel yourself kind of getting stuck, if you feel yourself kind of getting stuck in this, I'm expecting them, or I want slash I'm expecting them to go this way and they don't. The best way to overcome that is to get rid of expectations. Put them in a sandbox, put them in a world, put them in a situation without any expectations of what will happen. And sometimes you can, and it sounds like with this group, because the way you described how they like to take charge, would be to not even plan out I mean, you said that they were discussing an escape. They were captured and they were discussing an escape. Is that what you said?
Yeah, by the end they were discussing, how they got, they were trying, discussing an escape, and I'm like, but I'm trying to story here, and they're just sitting there trying to like escape from the dungeon. I'm like, that's not what I'm still trying to read from the, or think on the.
Yeah. So it's that you have a really rare opportunity here. It's so a lot of DMs struggle with getting with player involvement and player engagement. It is so rare for a DM for a group of players to be ahead of the DM on engagement. So it sounds like all of your players are just really enthusiastic and they're trying to go in a different direction. They're really excited about it. And you're having a hard time keeping up with them. You have to be very conscious when that situation comes up, because if you start trying to dial them back to your level, it will absolutely destroy motivation. They may end up going further back than you want them to. So what I would do is just let them let them go. Especially if everyone's on board except for you, I would just let them go. Just let them have it. Like, yeah, you guys want to, this is the plan. We're escaping, sure. And then try to apply roadblocks for them to easily overcome, or not easily overcome.
I definitely made it a challenge. Yeah.
A great way to do this is to listen to their plans and then build around. So let's say, all right, you know what? I'm going to ask, what is their plan to escape? Let's be specific. What was you said they were captured and they were planning an escape.
Yeah.
How did they
Before
plan
I
to
could
escape?
even, well, they were trying to pick the lock, or one of them was trying to fuse the metal because they were a warforged artificer. So they were trying to absorb the material, and I'm like, I'm like, okay. I was trying to go with it, but I was just like, no, that's not how I want you to. And the other one was trying to somehow pick the lock and run out of the cell. And I'm like, okay, but okay.
So how did you handle the lockpick? That's a very simple one.
I didn't really let them pick the lock because I was trying to go with the story, or improv the story, if you would, because there was no real story written down anywhere.
Okay.
So there was nothing. I really didn't let them pick the lock, and that's pretty much just it.
Chat, that's enough. Justin, can you get control of some of these people? Okay. So you didn't let them pick the lock. So what was the plan that you had in mind for them? Out of curiosity. So they were captured. One of them wanted to fuse the metal, one of them to pick the lock. You had something in your head that you wanted them to do. What was it?
I was gonna let them. I was gonna let the story go by where the king walked in, made fun of them, and then left. Uh, and then that just didn't. That part that did happen because I had to kind of make it. And then when I let them actually do something, it was they were being dragged out for the execution, and then that's where I let them, do stuff. But
okay. So I'm just going to go ahead and say this. If you have something in your head that you want to happen, and it is in the players don't really have an option. So it sounds like the players didn't really have an option. They were waiting on this king to come and insult them and then drag them to an execution. And then you had something in mind for the execution. Sorry, I'm writing something down. So you had something in mind for the execution, but not necessarily for the prison. Because you just said, when I asked, what did you have planned for the imprisonment? You said that you wanted the king was going to show up and insult them and then drag them to an execution. Did I hear that right?
Yeah.
Okay. So that is completely independent of player involvement. So there's really no reason to give the players the option to do anything there. That is what I would call a scene transition. You're captured. You're in the cell. The king shows up, insults you, drags you to the execution. You don't want to leave empty space where players can't do anything. If they're stuck in a transition, just move them to the part where they can actually play the game. So I'm imagining in my head like you guys are in a prison cell. What do you do? When really the answer is no, we can't do anything because we can't pick the lock, we can't fuse the metal. There's no window, there's nothing. They don't know it yet, but they're waiting on the king to show up and do something. They're waiting on you to push the story forward. So what you want to do is push that forward to the point where they can start interacting again.
Yeah.
Make sense?
Yeah. I didn't really give them a whole lot. See, the thing with the two players I was with, they didn't really leave a whole lot of room for me to start the transition. Because as soon as I got to, they woke up in a prison cell, they were starting to try and do things. And I was like, wait, no, slow down. No. Just.
Right there. Say
yeah.
that last part again. Repeat that last part back to me. What you just said.
I was like, wait, no, slow down. Or was it part before that?
No, that right there. See, they were getting ahead of you. You said, whoa, slow down. They were getting ahead of you. That was what I was talking about when I said you're going to bring them back to your level. They're getting ahead of you, and you're trying to drag them back. What I want you to work on is trying to catch up to them. So when you said, all right, you wake up in a prison cell and they immediately just started like interacting with stuff, let them go. Just let them go. Like, okay, all right, well, like in that situation, like you wake up in a prison cell and they immediately start interacting with stuff. You can let them kind of fill the scene. It's really fun when players will jump on a scene and start interacting. When the players paint a picture in their head of the scene without you describing anything, that's the best, because then that's a lot less work on your part. So for example, you wake up in a prison cell. Oh man, I'm going to check through the bars. Is there a guard around? Or I'm going to look for the guard. I'm going to see if I can grab the keys. I'm going to look through the window. I'm going to check under the bed. See, they just put a bunch of things in that scene that you didn't even describe, but they're there now. That's just like, that's the key to improv is the yes and. I'm sure you may have heard of it. Yeah. Yes and.
Yeah.
So that's what you want to do. And you want, believe me, you want that. You want that. So yeah, once the players just start engaging with stuff, I mean, just wait on them. Wait on them. Like, we're going to do this. We're going to do this. Hey, DM, is this around? Are the keys in arm's reach? Then you can start telling them like, no, the keys are out of your reach. Because eventually they're going to need your input, right? They're in a prison cell. They can't just, they're not going to be able to push the scene forward. Eventually they're going to need your input. So just wait on that. Just wait for their input.
Yeah. Okay.
Anything else for me?
What would happen if they try to leave the area of the game mod or homebrew?
What do you mean?
Like if there is a set pad, like there's an actual game and it's not just some improv moment, and there's an actual place for them to go or story-wise to go, and there's an area that they should stay in and not leave. What would happen if they try to leave? What should I do? Or just leave them, or just let them go?
Move whatever your intended, whatever. So as a DM, you have to prepare. As a DM, when you prepare, let's say you grab a battle map, you grab a dungeon, or you grab a city map, a dungeon, some kind of ruins, a mountain, a forest, etc. If you have these things in your head prepared, you want to put that in front of the players based off of their decisions. Now, it's better to have options and to give them the options, but if they deviate, it's encouraged to move things around so that it ends up in their path. So for example, let's say you have a fork in the road. if they go right, they're going to end up at the castle that you prepared, like the vampire's mansion that you prepared. You didn't prepare anything for left. You didn't expect them to go left because when you described left, you said, oh, left looks boring and dull. There's an open field and there's nothing there. But to the right, there's a lot of interesting stuff. And then the players say, okay, we're going to go left. So all you have to do is just move that castle or move the vampire mansion to the left. Like, okay, you move through the field and eventually you reach the vampire castle, right?
Yeah.
So that would be the way to do it. Just move things around. So that's a broad example. I would like to hear your specific example. Like, what do you have planned versus what are they trying to do?
I'm not playing any games right now.
I mean, you as the DM, when you have something set up, and they're
the only session I've done was completely improv, so I haven't actually done a planned game.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
When you do, you'll be set. All right, I need to move on. Next
Okay,
caller.
that's fine. Yep. Have fun.
Later, Tim.
Bye bye.